Peace will fill the world when we finally understand that only from within can it be spread throughout the land. Every single person living peace in what we do, only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true.
Good morning, friends. I'm Leona Evans, minister at Unity of San Luis Obispo, an inclusive, progressive, spiritual community affirming the good in all life. Welcome to our Sunday morning live stream. Once again, I am just thrilled to be here, and I'm delighted that you've chosen to be here with us. Well, I'm going to do my Labor Day talk today. And why is that? Because a week from today, a week from Sunday on the 5th of September, it's Labor Day and it's also Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. And I have a wonderful talk for Rosh Hashanah, and Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans have some delightful music. And so I didn't want to kind of split the service between those two. So I chose to talk about Labor Day today, and the title of my talk is Labor of Love. So let's get ready to extract meaning and purpose and be uplifted by the service that you experienced this morning. Let's take a deep breath and relax. And as we do so, let's gently lay aside all of the extraneous thoughts that we might be having and focus on this time and on this place. Take a deep breath once again, and let us affirm together, I am now open and receptive to the living Spirit of truth. Once again, I am now open and receptive to the living Spirit of truth. And so it is. Amen. Well, let's open our service, as always, with a joy song, lovingly and beautifully presented by Matthew J. Evans.
Good morning. Today we're going to sing On This Lovely Day. Please sing along with the lyrics in the bottom of the screen. Birds are singing sweet and low from the trees that gently flow. Soft and soothing breezes blow on this lovely day. To the meadow there go I, to wander as a butterfly. How the flowers please my eye on this lovely day. I know it can be always. Life is easy on such a day. I wish this peace on everyone on this lovely day. Birds are singing sweet and low from the trees that gently flow. Soft and soothing breezes blow on this lovely day. To the meadow there go I, to wander as a butterfly. How the flowers please my eye on this lovely day. I know it can be always. Life is easy on such a day. I wish this peace on everyone on this lovely day. I know it can be always. Life is easy on such a day. I wish this peace on everyone on this lovely day. Have a great morning, everybody.
Thank you so much, Matthew J. Evans. That was just lovely. Well, I'm excited to announce that our very first in-person meeting is going to be taking place next Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, and that would be after our Sunday morning live stream. It's a new aspect of our ministry called the spiritual connection. Even if you've never been to Unity in person before, we welcome you. We want for you to be a part of this great awakening by sharing with us a new type of spiritual community. So, the sign is up on your screen. There is information on our website, unityslow.com. There are Facebook advertisements. It's in the community calendars, and we want you to come. We want you to share this information, this announcement with your friends. And we want to begin in these troubled times to start a new way of experiencing the presence of God in an informal atmosphere where each person is an integral part of what happens. And we want very much for you to continue to watch our Sunday morning live streams at 10:10 Pacific time, because that's the staple of our ministry. I'm looking forward to next Sunday at 11:30 after our worship experience. Well, today is not Labor Day, but I'm doing a Labor Day talk because I want to save next week for the celebration of the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and all of the implications. Rosh Hashanah, the celebration of the New Year, Yom Kippur, a day of atonement. What is atonement really like? Atonement is turning around, making a change in perspective, a change in perception. And all of that is important and powerful information for next Sunday. Labor Day. Labor Day began in the late 1800s during the Industrial Revolution, when individuals were being forced to labor at very minimal wages. They were not encouraged to join unions. As a matter of fact, they were dissuaded from joining unions because the employers wanted to hire workers no matter what age they were, children, women, men, old people, young people, it didn't matter. The important thing to the employers at the time was getting the work out, not who was doing it, getting the work out. And for many people, it was intolerable. There were immigrants that came from other countries who wanted very much to get their relatives to come from the country in Eastern Europe, wherever they were coming from, here. And in order to do that, they had to save for and buy a steamship ticket. Well, that wasn't so easy because the people from Eastern Europe didn't yet speak English very well, and the only people that they knew how to get tickets from were actually scalpers who were charging them twice as much to get a steamship ticket. So with all of the extra labor that they were working for slave wages and working round the clock, there was so much illness and fatigue and stress attached to that period of time that one day a politician by the name of Eugene V. Debs decided that they would hold a protest march to honor the people who labored, who gave of themselves so completely that they almost did not have time or energy for themselves. And so that was the first Labor Day experience. That was the first time that people who labored, people who worked, were acknowledged and honored for the work they did. And this meeting sparked a great deal of interest, a great deal of participation. The union work was stimulated. They started celebrating once a year by honoring the workers. I know in Russia they have their celebration of May Day, where they say, "Workers of the world unite." And of course, that has a bit of a different connotation depending on your political views. But the idea of workers, not just of my country, but workers of the world, people who make things happen, people who every day of their lives are contributing to the well-being of our planet by the jobs that they do, they need to be honored. They need to be paid a fair wage. They need to be recognized for times when they're not able to work and provided with the proper kind of insurance to protect them. Women who work, who are becoming mothers, or husbands who are fathers but need to spend time, need to have maternity leave, paternity leave. All of that is starting to be honored as we realize that we're more than just laborers. We're more than just individuals who can be used by the corporate system to take care of their needs and barely meet our own. So, having said that, Labor Day is an important time, and this practically post-COVID time is an important time too, because there are a number of workers, as I discussed with you several weeks ago, who are choosing not to go back to jobs that provided them very little pay and were not really able to support them. They've become online entrepreneurs. They have banded together with friends and schoolmates to start new businesses. They've, as the old movie Network has stated through many of their actors, they've said, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. What am I going to do? I'm going to redefine work. I'm going to redefine the way I've treated myself. I'm going to find a way to work, to make a living, to contribute to society, and still honor my own unique individuality." I love this. I'm very excited about this. Now, I remember as a small child growing up that I was told that work was something that was really hard, that it was drudgery. And I remember some of my family members had a special saying, and it was something in response to a comment being made such as, "Wow, you put in a day's work, you have to commute to get there, they don't appreciate you when you're there, they don't pay you enough, and then you go home." And then the relative would say, "That's why they call it work." And there'd be a little laugh and people would resume what they were doing. But work was definitely seen, from my perspective, as something that you had to do if you were a responsible person. But enjoying it was just not in the cards for most people. Now, excuse me, as many of you know, I started in the theater at a very young age, 4 or 5 years old. And they called that work, but I never felt like I was working. I was having the time of my life. people were dressing me in costumes. They had their own costumes. There were lights, there were lines. We received laughs and applause for our performances. It was just a heck of a lot of fun. So I determined at a very young age that for me, work was not going to be something different from pleasure or enjoyment. And see, as I grew older and began to work more in the theater and in live TV during the 50s and 60s, it was so exciting to work with people who worked hard and maybe didn't get paid very much, but it didn't matter to them as much because they were feeling so rewarded, because there was so much opportunity for growth and expansion, because they hung out with the people they worked with. There were creative ideas flowing all the time, and it was a pretty darn exciting place to be. So I decided that I would always want to feel that my work was an exciting, creative, fulfilling, wonderful, lucrative, enjoyable place to be, because this was a life-giving formula for having a sense of happiness that lasted more than just a weekend or evenings during the week. I watched people I knew, people in my family who worked very, very hard during the day. My mother, for example, who worked very hard during the day and came home and worked hard at night and worked hard during the weekends because she was a full-time mom and a full-time office worker. And she did it. She never really said she enjoyed it, but she did it, and she took a great deal of pride in it. As a matter of fact, this was the woman who took 3 buses and 2 subways in Chicago to get to the other side of town where her office was. She did that for 21 years. And she claimed not to even like her job. So that made me very sad. It really did. And I did the best I could to help her feel important at what she did. I did the best I could to remind her that she was worth a lot more than she was getting in salary. And overall, even though her ambition was to be a stay-at-home housewife and mom, which she wasn't able to do because of recessions and divorce and all kinds of things, she ended up taking pride in what she did. And while it wasn't fun for her, she was able to feel that she was making an important contribution to her place of business. All of the people in my family and other people's families that I knew worked very hard. There were all kinds of stresses that they would come home and talk about. All kinds of physical ailments that came with working that long a time and in enclosed environments. And still, I held on to the belief that work could be enjoyable if we just could figure out what we wanted to do and do everything we could to make sure we did it, to be educated, to be trained in whatever field appealed to us. So we'll talk more about that, about the spiritual component of work, after we hear some wonderful music from Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans.
Here's a fun tune from 1945 and the movie called Wake Up and Dream. It starred John Payne and June Haver, and it's called Give Me the Simple Life, written by Ruby Bloom and Harry Ruby. A one, a two, a one, two, three, four. Folks are blessed who make the best of every day, living by their own philosophy. Everyone beneath the sun must find a way, and I have found the only way for me. The way for me. I don't believe in fretting and grieving. Why mess around with strife? I never was cut out to set and strut out. Give me the simple life. Some find it pleasant dining on pheasant. Things though, they roll up my knife, that's what they do. Tomatoes, that's what I want. Mashed potatoes. Give me the simple life. A cottage small is all I'm after, not one that's spacious and wide. A house that rings with joy and laughter, and the ones you love inside. Some like the high road, I like the low road, free from the care and strife. Sounds corny and seedy, but yes, indeed, give me the simple life. Now living I find is best when your mind is keen as a carving knife. I'm crazy about sleep, can't do without sleep. Give me the simple life. I love to whittle and play a little tune on a tin-cent fife. I don't aim to worry, hustle or hurry. Give me the simple life. I greet the dawn when I awaken. The sky is clear up above. I like my scrambled eggs and bacon served by someone that I love. Life could be thrilled with one who's willing to be a farmer's wife. Kids calling me pappy would make me happy. Give me the simple life. Sounds corny and seedy, but yes indeed. Give me the simple life. It'll be fun like that, you know. The simple life. It's just it's easy. That's what it is.
Yeah. Nice and chill.
Thank you so much, Brett Mitchell and Matthew J. Evans. What a lovely rendition of that terrific song. You guys exemplify what it's like to love your work and how much joy you can bring to others by experiencing that joy within yourself. Thank you so much. So, I was working in the theater. I was working on the road. I had incredible private tutors during the time that I was out. I went to public school when I was at home. I just loved show business. I loved the theater. I loved to sing. I loved to dance. I loved taking classes. I loved taking lessons. I loved the hours of ballet that were pretty torturous. But the fact is, I never really thought of the physical pain as work. I thought of it as honing my skills. I don't remember if I ever questioned whether I liked it or not. Listening to your bones crack because you've never put them in those places before is kind of jarring and unsettling. But the fact is that there was a time when I was in utopia. But like everything else, there is a time to leave the garden, a time to leave the innocence and understand that we are growing into a hero's journey that we need to experience so that we understand more of what life is other than good times and constant nurturing by your professional colleagues, and understand what it takes to really live life. And so the older I got, as I was a young adult, I began to become very aware of the challenge of competition and the auditions. I became very self-conscious. I began to be really nervous. I had performance anxiety, particularly at auditions. And it was really extremely stressful. But of course, I realized later that when a child is performing and they love it so much, there's often not that sense of self-consciousness. There's just a sense of giving and enjoying and sharing and smiling, and it's a very freeing and exuberant type of experience. But there comes a time when one day you say to yourself, I'm doing this in front of a lot of people, and I might make a mistake, and I might fail. And what if I open up my mouth to sing and nothing comes out? I mean, this is, I wish I had had a book on it when I was going through it, but fortunately I was aware of that when Matthew took to the stage at a very young age, to actually TV and film as well. I noticed that there was a time when he became self-conscious. I didn't realize the risks, you say to yourself, of doing what I'm doing. I mean, it's just incredibly risky. And I don't know how I'm going to sound, and I don't know what people are going to think of me, and I don't know what the reviews are going to say. And all of that stuff starts coming up, and we lose our center. I still believe that work could be joyful, but it was getting to the place where it wasn't. Again, many years before the Me Too movement grabbed hold, and where women felt free to say that was not an appropriate place to put your hand, that was not an appropriate thing to say, I have dignity and I'm going to assert that dignity. No, that was before. And I went through, as I started going through my 20s and early 30s, I started realizing that my work was limited to the times when I actually was on the stage. The rest of the time, doing business with perhaps unscrupulous people, having to watch your back, having to watch the competition, and being concerned about being able to make a living in such a sporadic atmosphere. As the years went by, I realized that I was allowing the dark side of the business to take hold of me and to make it so I really didn't feel like going to work. And that was a very hard and very difficult time for me, because it was a time of grief. I needed to let go. I needed to give up that business. I had spent a great deal of time in it, but it wasn't bringing me joy. And I also was stimulated to try to explore other avenues of expression, particularly the power of the mind. And so I was very attracted to the Unity New Thought teachings, because it told us that we were more than our circumstances, that we deserved to have a life of love and creative fulfillment and prosperity and good health. It told us that we didn't have to suffer, that no matter what situation came along in life, there was a part of us that could make a choice to see things differently. And so I went to Unity, I went to Science of Mind, I went now called Centers for Creative Living. I went to explore the concepts of New Thought because I realized how much and in how many ways I had given my power away. Well, I got into Unity, and one of the first books I read was by co-founder Myrtle Fillmore. And she shared this quote, a very popular one in the movement, and it said, "Your job is not your work. Your work is to express your God-given potential, whether you do it on the job or not. Remember that your work is to express your God-given potential, and you can make a choice to do it wherever you are." Heavy stuff, huh? Well, as time passed, life was changing. People started paying attention to what stress could do to the body. People started talking about nurturing ourselves. People started talking more about the relaxation response, the power of meditation. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s was all about finding ways to create joy in a virtually joyless existence, of the drudgery of having to go to work and the drudgery of having to do our household responsibilities and the drudgery of not being able to feel free to enjoy life. And so we worked very hard through those decades, and I learned a great deal about how to use the power of my mind when it looked as though there were untenable situations. I learned to discern when I could assert my individuality and when it was better to just walk away from certain situations that didn't really have a positive component to them. And I learned to understand, because when I finally left the theater with no college education, no preparation for any kind of life outside of the theater, I didn't know how to type. There was a whole new world that opened up, a whole new world, and I wasn't sure that I had a part in it. And a part of me was so unhappy because I thought I would never feel as fulfilled and as gratified as I did when I sang or when I worked in the theater and just gave my all in an unrestrained environment that welcomed my expression. That's a big one. Blessings to people who have that in their lives. Many, many blessings. But that's what we're working toward. And so I remember thinking, as I faced 8 years of education to prepare me to go into the ministry, or just to get out of, get my undergraduate degree, get a graduate degree, go to the seminary, go to typing school, go to business school, just to prepare myself to take on a work that was totally foreign to me. I began to see in what ways I felt that I had no choice in the environment I was in. And I'm thinking specifically of ministerial school, where my classmates and I were terrified that we weren't going to learn enough in our 2-year in residence program. because, well, we hadn't been in this work before, and we were experiencing a midlife career change. And incidentally, I wrote a book about it with the wonderful late Carol Kiefer called Nothing is Too Good to Be True. Check that out, about the switch from the full-fledged career of over 20 years in the theater and a switch to the ministry, which I didn't see as that different, by the way, at the time, because all of the skills that I had developed in the theater, I could now use to share a different message. And the message was, how can we feel better about ourselves? How can we focus on the real work, which is expressing our divine potential by making wise choices, by developing new habits, by understanding that we were worth more than we thought we were. Of course, that seemed a lot simpler in the beginning than it turned out to be, but isn't that the way things always are? If we knew what we were getting into, of course that's true for marriage or any other kind of commitment, if we knew what we were getting into, we'd probably say, that's probably a little harder than I'm up for. And yet, through what I call the grace of God, we're gently introduced into the experience, and by the time we develop skills in that area, we're able to face the kind of work that is ours to do. I want to celebrate Labor Day this year by honoring the ability within each of us to remember what our real work is, and to understand that passion and lighthearted frivolity aren't necessarily the same thing. Both are joy-filled, but for me, the passion that causes me to stay up at night and to work on ideas and to be so excited to be here with you and to love the work so much that I feel alive when I do it. That is the kind of joy that I wish for everyone. That is the kind of living our lives that I think has a healing component. I'm quite sure of it, as a matter of fact, that we have more endurance and strength and power and love and brilliance and all kinds of talents that we haven't explored, that we only get to explore when we realize that our work, our real work, is to find ways to share our talents with others, to open ourselves up to learning from others, to work at changing the way we see things, to be able to take our power back even a little bit from a very challenging situation that we, prior to that time, didn't have the courage to face. I want to say, workers of the world, unite in a joyful expression of making a life, not just making a living, out of that which brings us passion, brings us joy, and never stops because we're the retirement age. I don't even know what that means. I'm not even sure what it is anymore, but I can tell you I've passed it for quite a while now. And I'm not interested in retiring to, as George Burns used to say, watch my soup cool off. It's just not the way I'm built. Even those who enjoy watching their soup cool off, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, can still find a great deal of pleasure in knowing that they have a place in the world, they have talents and skills that are valuable to others. Never forget that we live every moment of our lives. And in order to live life to the fullest, We need to do the work of spirit. Relax now and breathe deeply as we move into our time of inner contemplation, integration of today's message, and meditation. Let us honor the divine I Am within us as we open our minds and hearts to doing the work of manifesting our talents, gifts, and abilities to the highest level of our being. Always remember, you are valuable for who and what you are. You are unique, divine by nature, human in expression and experience. Work is the lifting of the soul to the place where we know that our life is valuable and that we do have work to do. The work is in consciousness, surrounded in love, buoyed by faith, filled with strength and wisdom. We go forth in the world and share our light. Let your light shine. Let the work of Spirit within us motivate and bless us every moment of every day. And so it is. Amen. This is the time now in our service where we bless our tithes and offerings. So let us give thanks for unity of San Luis Obispo and all of its many dimensions. Once again, I bless every one of you who tunes in on a Sunday morning and throughout the week to receive a blessing from this ministry. I am blessed by knowing that you're there. And it would be so great if we could get to know each other virtually. Please send us your email address so we can put you on our mailing list. We have e-newsletters every week and opportunities to share with one another. We also have a wonderful prayer ministry, and we meet virtually every week to bless and support one another through our powerful teachings of affirmative prayer. So let's take the gift that we would share. Let us hold it in our hand or hold it in our hearts, and let us affirm together. I give in love because I love to give. God is my source. And so it is. Amen.
Here's a rather well-known song from the great team of Rodgers and Hammerstein from their first musical collaboration. And that musical was Oklahoma, which happens to be my home state. The Surrey with the Fringe on the top. We're giving it a little bit of a jazz twist. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
tell you what, Matthew, that's rather nice. And anytime you want to visit me in Oklahoma, just come on over.
Well, that sounds right fine.
Sorry, the fringe will be off. We'll get it.
I'll be right over.
You guys are just too cute. You're adorable together. And that was a wonderful, wonderful song. Thank you so much. Let's sing our peace song, shall we?
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyful vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Let's speak the words of our prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Friends, have a wonderful week. You deserve it.
Every single person living peace in what we do. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream come true. Only then will our dream